The Galaxy Council chamber was a massive, circular room with a high ceiling that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. The walls shimmered with soft, glowing lights, and holograms of alien representatives floated in mid-air, each one representing their species. It was a place where decisions were made that could affect entire star systems, but today, the atmosphere felt tense and heavy. At the center of it all stood Daniel Carter, humanity's lead ambassador. His suit was perfectly pressed, his tie neatly knotted, but his face showed signs of exhaustion. For months he had been trying to negotiate fair terms for Earth. Humans wanted access to resources scattered across the galaxy, and they wanted to expand their colonies into unclaimed territories. But every time they presented their case, the Council dismissed them or offered deals that favored the larger, more powerful alien species. Daniel took a deep breath as he stepped up to the podium. He glanced at Emily Dawson, his assistant, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. She sat quietly behind him, her hands folded on the table, her expression calm but alert. Daniel knew this moment would define not just his career but the future of humanity itself. "We've heard enough," Daniel said, his voice firm and clear. The murmurs in the room died down instantly as all eyes turned to him. "If this council cannot recognize our contributions or even treat us as equals, then we will step away." His words hung in the air like thunder. No one spoke. The silence was deafening. Even the holographic images of the alien representatives seemed frozen in place. Emily quickly gathered their notes, her movements careful and deliberate, but her heart raced. She knew how risky this move was. Stepping away from the council meant stepping away from protection, alliances, and access to shared technology. It was a gamble, and if it failed, Earth could be left vulnerable. Among the stunned crowd, one alien representative watched closely. Zixar-7, an insectoid diplomat with multiple eyes and antennae twitching slightly, tilted its head in curiosity. Unlike many of the others, Zixar-7 had always found humans intriguing. They were resourceful, adaptable, and often underestimated by the Council. This sudden declaration wasn't just defiance, it was something deeper. Zixar-7 suspected there might be more going on beneath the surface. Back on Earth, news of the war withdrawal spread quickly. Rachel Meyer, a senior advisor to the president, sat in her office in Washington, D.C., staring at the live feed of the council meeting. Her fingers tapped nervously on the desk as she listened to Daniel's speech. When he finished speaking, she leaned back in her chair, letting out a long sigh. "This is either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," she muttered to herself. She picked up her phone and dialed Jason Holt, an astrophysicist who had recently joined her team as a strategist. Jason was known for his sharp mind and creative solutions, qualities Rachel desperately needed right now. "Jason, get over here," Rachel said when he answered. "We need to figure out what happens next." Within minutes, Jason arrived at her office, carrying a stack of papers and a laptop under his arm. He set everything down on the table and looked at Rachel expectantly. "What's the plan?" he asked. Rachel gestured toward the screen still showing the council chamber. "That's the problem. There isn't one yet. We pulled out of the council, but now we're on our own. If we don't act fast, we'll be isolated, and that could mean trouble." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, let's think about this. Pulling out doesn't have to mean failure. What if we use this as an opportunity? Instead of relying on the council, we build our own path. We can establish independent colonies outside their control. Show them we don't need their approval to succeed." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You think we can pull that off?" "I know we can," Jason replied confidently. "We've got the technology, the manpower, and the determination. All we need is a plan, and maybe some allies who feel the same way we do." As they began brainstorming ideas, whispers started spreading among the alien factions. Some saw humanity's departure as reckless arrogance, while others viewed it as a chance to exploit their absence. Trade routes, once protected by council agreements, suddenly became uncertain, and smaller species began wondering if they too should reconsider their loyalty to the council. But Zixar-7 remained focused. It observed the reactions carefully, noting which species seemed uneasy and which ones appeared eager to take advantage of the situation. The insectoid diplomat couldn't shake the feeling that the council had made a grave mistake. Humans weren't just walking away. They were preparing for something bigger. Days turned into weeks, and the reality of the decision began sinking in. On Earth, people debated whether Daniel's bold move was justified. Some praised him as a hero, while others criticized him for putting the planet at risk. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds chanting slogans both for and against the withdrawal. Politicians scrambled to address public concerns, but no one had clear answers. Meanwhile, in space, construction crews worked tirelessly to build new habitats on distant moons. These self-sustaining colonies were designed to operate independently, relying on advanced recycling systems and renewable energy sources. Engineers tested prototypes of mining drones capable of extracting rare minerals from asteroids. Scientists developed crops engineered to grow in low-gravity environments. Every step forward brought humanity closer to proving they didn't need the Council to survive. One day, a trader named Alex Rivera docked at one of these new colonies. Alex was human but had spent years traveling between planets, dealing with various alien species. He had a reputation for being shrewd but fair, and he often acted as a middleman in interstellar trade. When he heard about humanity's withdrawal, he decided to investigate firsthand. Alex met with Emily Dawson, who had been tasked with overseeing the development of the colonies. She greeted him warmly, grateful for any support they could get. "We're trying to make this work," she explained as they walked through the bustling settlement. "But it's not easy. Supplies are limited and morale is fragile." Alex nodded sympathetically. "I can help," he said. "There are plenty of aliens out there who aren't happy with the Council either. If you're willing to trade, I can introduce you to some of them." Emily hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Let's do it." Over the following weeks, Alex introduced humanity to Celtic, a reptilian merchant whose people had long resented the Council's favoritism. Celtic was skeptical at first, but after seeing the progress humans had made in such a short time, he agreed to negotiate. Together, they drafted agreements ensuring mutual protection and trade benefits, an alternative network slowly taking shape beyond the Council's reach. Back in the Council chamber, tensions continued to rise. Ambassador Varnock, a towering amphibian-like creature, slammed his fists on the table during one particularly heated session. "This is unacceptable," he roared. "Zixar 7 has been secretly aiding the humans. Look at the chaos they've caused." Zixar 7 remained calm, its antennae flickering slightly. "I have done nothing wrong," it replied evenly. "What I see is a council in denial. For too long we've ignored fairness and balance. Now look where it has led us." Its words sparked a wave of murmurs throughout the room. Smaller species began voicing their frustrations, accusing the dominant factions of hoarding resources and stifling innovation. The Council, once a symbol of unity, now teetered on the brink of collapse. And yet, despite the turmoil, hope lingered. Humanity's bold move had forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable truths. Change was coming, whether the Council liked it or not. Back on Earth, the days following humanity's withdrawal from the Galaxy Council were filled with uncertainty. News of Daniel Carter's bold declaration spread like wildfire, sparking debates across the planet. In Washington, D.C., Rachel Meyer sat in her office staring at a live feed of the Council chamber replaying Daniel's speech. Her mind raced as she tried to process the magnitude of what had just happened. Humanity was no longer part of the Council, and that decision carried risks far greater than anyone could fully grasp. Rachel tapped her pen nervously on the desk. She knew the stakes. Without the Council's protection, Earth could become an easy target for hostile alien species or rogue factions looking to exploit humanity's vulnerability. Trade routes would dry up, leaving shortages of essential resources. The colonies, already established in space, might face attacks if they couldn't defend themselves. But despite the risks, Rachel also understood why Daniel had acted. For decades, humans had been treated as second-class citizens by the Council, forced to Beg for scraps while larger, more powerful species reaped the benefits of shared technology and resources. Enough was enough. She picked up her phone and dialed Jason Holt, the astrophysicist turned strategist who had recently joined her team. Jason was known for his sharp mind and ability to think outside the box, qualities Rachel desperately needed. Right now. "Jason, get over here," Rachel said when he answered. "We need to figure out what happens next." Within minutes, Jason arrived at her office carrying a stack of papers and his laptop under one arm. He set everything down on the table and looked at Rachel expectantly. "What's the plan?" he asked. Rachel gestured toward the screen still showing the council chamber. "That's the problem, there isn't one yet. We pulled out of the council, but now we're on our own. If we don't act fast, we'll be isolated, and that could mean trouble." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, let's think about this. Pulling out doesn't have to mean failure. What if we use this as an opportunity? Instead of relying on the council, we build our own path. We can establish independent colonies outside their control. Show them we don't need their approval to succeed." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You think we can pull that off?" "I know we can," Jason replied confidently. "We've got the technology, the manpower, and the determination. All we need is a plan, and maybe some allies who feel the same way we do." The two of them spent hours brainstorming ideas. They discussed ways to expand existing colonies, develop self-sustaining habitats on distant moons, and create new trade networks with alien species dissatisfied with the council. By the end of the meeting, Rachel felt a glimmer of hope. It wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. Meanwhile, whispers began spreading among the alien factions. Some saw humanity's departure as reckless arrogance, while others viewed it as a chance to exploit their absence. Trade routes once protected by council agreements suddenly became uncertain, and smaller species began questioning whether they too should reconsider their loyalty to the council. Backroom deals and secret negotiations started taking place, with everyone trying to position themselves for whatever came next. But Zixar 7, the insectoid diplomat, remained focused. It observed the reactions carefully, noting which species seemed uneasy and which ones appeared eager to take advantage of the situation. The insectoid diplomat couldn't shake the feeling that the council had made a grave mistake. Humans weren't just walking away. They were preparing for something bigger. Days turned into weeks, and the reality of the decision began sinking in. On Earth, people debated whether Daniel's bold move was justified. Some praised him as a hero, while others criticized him for putting the planet at risk. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds chanting slogans both for and against the withdrawal. Politicians scrambled to address public concerns, but no one had clear answers. In space, however, progress was being made. Construction crews worked tirelessly to build new habitats on distant moons. These self-sustaining colonies were designed to operate independently, relying on advanced recycling systems and renewable energy sources. Engineers tested prototypes of mining drones capable of extracting rare minerals from asteroids. Scientists developed crops engineered to grow in low-gravity environments. Every step forward brought humanity closer to proving they didn't need the council to survive. One day, a trader named Alex Rivera docked at one of these new colonies. Alex was human, but had spent years traveling between planets, dealing with various alien species. He had a reputation for being shrewd but fair, and he often acted as a middleman in interstellar trade. When he heard about humanity's withdrawal, he decided to investigate firsthand. Alex met with Emily Dawson, who had been tasked with overseeing the development of the colonies. She greeted him warmly, grateful for any support they could get. "We're trying to make this work," she explained as they walked through the bustling settlement. "But it's not easy. Supplies are limited and morale is fragile." Alex nodded sympathetically. "I can help," he said. "There are plenty of aliens out there who aren't happy with the council either. If you're willing to trade, I can introduce you to some of them." Emily hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Let's do it." Over the following weeks, Alex introduced humanity to Celtic, a reptilian merchant whose people had long resented the council's favoritism. Kael'thek was skeptical at first, but after seeing the progress humans had made in such a short time, he agreed to negotiate. Together, they drafted agreements ensuring mutual protection and trade benefits, an alternative network slowly taking shape beyond the Council's reach. Back in the Council chamber, tensions continued to rise. Ambassador Varnock, a towering amphibian-like creature, slammed his fist on the table during one particularly heated session. "This is unacceptable," he roared. "Zixar 7 has been secretly aiding the humans. Look at the chaos they've caused." Zixar 7 remained calm, its antennae flickering slightly. "I have done nothing wrong," it replied evenly. "What I see is a council in denial. For too long we've ignored fairness and balance. Now, look where it has led us." Its words sparked a wave of murmurs throughout the room. Smaller species began voicing their frustrations, accusing the dominant factions of hoarding resources and stifling innovation. The Council, once a symbol of unity, now teetered on the brink of collapse. And yet, despite the turmoil, hope lingered. Humanity's bold move had forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable truths. Change was coming, whether the Council liked it or not. As months passed, humanity's efforts began bearing fruit. Independent colonies thrived, attracting traders, refugees, and rogue scientists seeking freedom from Council oversight. Earth itself transformed into a hub of innovation and diplomacy, earning respect across the stars. Slowly but surely, humans proved they could stand on their own, and even lead. Rachel watched these developments with pride. She knew the road ahead would still be challenging, but she also knew they had taken the first step toward a brighter future. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were thriving. And in doing so, they had forced the galaxy to recognize their strength, resilience, and determination. Months passed, and humanity's efforts to build a life outside the Galaxy Council began paying off. The colonies on distant moons grew into thriving settlements, bustling with activity. Engineers worked tirelessly to improve living conditions, while scientists developed new ways to grow food and generate power. Trade routes expanded as humans connected with alien species who shared their frustration with the Council's unfairness. Among these allies was Alex Rivera, a human trader who had spent years navigating the complexities of interstellar commerce. His connections proved invaluable in forging partnerships that strengthened humanity's position. Alex introduced Rachel, Meyer and her team to Kael'thek, a reptilian merchant whose people had long resented the Council's favoritism. Kael'thek's species lived on the fringes of Council-controlled space, often ignored or exploited by larger powers. When Alex brought humanity into the picture, Kael'thek saw an opportunity to level the playing field. Together, they drafted agreements ensuring mutual protection and fair trade. These deals marked the beginning of a new network, an alternative system that operated independently of the Council's influence. Back on Earth, Rachel and Jason Holt continued strategizing. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but every small victory fueled their determination. One evening, Rachel stood in her office staring at a map of the galaxy projected onto the wall. It showed the locations of humanity's colonies, allied alien settlements, and key trade routes. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a moment of hope. "We're doing it," she murmured to herself. "We're actually doing it." Jason entered the room, carrying a tablet filled with data. "Got some good news," he said, setting it down on the desk. "The mining drones are performing better than expected. We've already extracted enough rare minerals to sustain our colonies for another year." Rachel smiled faintly. "That's progress. But we can't get complacent. The Council won't just sit back and watch us succeed." "You're right," Jason agreed. "But let's focus on what we can control. Every colony we build, every alliance we form, it weakens their hold on the galaxy." Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Emily Dawson, who was overseeing the development of one of the largest colonies. Her face appeared on the screen, looking both excited and concerned. "Rachel, you need to see this," she said without preamble. "What is it?" Rachel asked, leaning closer. Emily hesitated before responding. "We've detected unusual activity near the outer edge of our territory. Ships, alien ships, are patrolling the area. They haven't attacked yet, but they're definitely watching us. Rachel frowned. Do we know who they belong to? Not yet, Emily admitted. But whoever they are, they're not friendly. I've already increased security measures, but if they decide to act, we might not be ready. Keep me updated, Rachel instructed, and make sure everyone stays alert. After ending the call, Rachel turned to Jason. This complicates things. If hostile forces are testing our defenses, we'll need to accelerate our plans. Jason nodded grimly. Agreed. Let's prioritize fortifying the colonies and expanding our fleet. We can't afford to be caught off guard. Meanwhile, within the Galaxy Council chambers, tensions were reaching a boiling point. Zixar-7, the insectoid diplomat, watched silently as arguments erupted between the council members. Ambassador Varnock accused smaller species of conspiring with humanity, while others demanded answers about the classified documents that revealed the council's deliberate sabotage of human proposals. The once unified body was now fractured, its members divided by fear, anger, and mistrust. Zixar-7 finally spoke up, its voice calm but firm. This infighting will only weaken us further. Humanity has exposed flaws in our system, flaws we must address if we wish to survive. Varnock glared at the insectoid diplomat. You dare defend them? They abandoned us. I defend fairness, Zixar-7 replied evenly. For too long we have prioritized the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. Humanity's departure is a wake-up call. If we refuse to change, more species will follow their example. The room fell silent as Zixar-7's words sank in. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats while others exchanged uneasy glances. Even Varnock seemed momentarily speechless. Outside the council chambers, rumors spread like wildfire. Alien species loyal to the council accused those sympathetic to humanity of betrayal, while others quietly celebrated the chaos. Smaller factions began organizing secret meetings to discuss their options. Some considered joining humanity's growing coalition, while others toyed with the idea of forming their own alliances. The galaxy was changing, and no one knew where it would lead. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter reflected on the events that had unfolded since his declaration at the council. He had returned home to a hero's welcome, but the weight of responsibility still rested heavily on his shoulders. People looked to him for guidance, expecting him to have all the answers. Yet deep down, Daniel knew he didn't. What he did know was that humanity had taken a stand, and now they had to prove they could back it up. One afternoon, Daniel met with Rachel and Jason to discuss their next steps. They gathered in a secure conference room surrounded by maps, charts, and holographic projections of their colonies. We've come a long way, Daniel began, but we're far from safe. Our enemies are watching, waiting for us to slip up. Rachel nodded, which is why we need to stay proactive, strengthen our defenses, expand our alliances, and keep pushing forward. And don't forget propaganda, Jason added with a wry smile. If we can show the galaxy that we're stronger without the council, we'll win over even more supporters. Daniel chuckled softly. Always thinking ahead, aren't you? It's what keeps us alive, Jason replied. As the meeting continued, Alex Rivera joined them via video call. He had been traveling between colonies and alien settlements, gathering intelligence and solidifying partnerships. Things are heating up out there, he reported. Word is spreading about our success, and it's making some species nervous. A few are even considering cutting ties with the council. That's good news, Rachel said. But we need to be careful. Not everyone out there is trustworthy. Understood, Alex replied. I'm keeping my eyes open. In the meantime, I've arranged a meeting with a group of rogue traders. They might be able to supply us with weapons and technology we can't produce ourselves. Rachel hesitated before responding. Weapons are risky. If word gets out, it could escalate tensions. Weapons also mean survival, Alex countered. We can't rely solely on diplomacy. Trust me, I've seen how this galaxy operates. After a brief pause, Rachel nodded reluctantly. Do what you have to do. Just make sure it stays off the record. As the days turned into weeks, humanity's presence in the galaxy continued to grow. Colonies became hubs of innovation, attracting scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs eager to contribute to the cause. Independent traders flocked to human settlements, bringing goods and information from across the stars. Slowly but surely, humanity was carving out a place for itself, a place defined not by dependence on the Council, but by resilience, ingenuity, and cooperation. Yet challenges remained. The mysterious ships spotted near the colonies hadn't attacked, but they lingered ominously on the horizon, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked beyond. Backroom deals and secret negotiations hinted at shifting alliances, with some species preparing to side with humanity and others plotting to undermine them. The galaxy was in flux and no one knew what the future held. Despite the uncertainty, however, one thing was clear: humanity had proven its strength. By stepping away from the Council, they had forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable truths. And, in doing so, they had ignited a movement. Change was coming, whether the Council liked it or not. And as long as humans remained united, they would continue to shape that change, for better or worse. The Galaxy Council was in chaos. The once orderly chamber now buzzed with arguments, accusations, and whispers of betrayal. For weeks, the Council had been struggling to address the fallout from humanity's withdrawal. Smaller species, emboldened by Earth's bold move, began openly questioning the Council's authority. Larger factions, however, clung desperately to their dominance, unwilling to share power or resources. The divide between them grew wider every day. Zixar-7, the insectoid diplomat, stood at the center of the storm. Its antennae twitched as it listened to Ambassador Varnock rant about humanity's recklessness. Varnock slammed his fists on the table, his amphibian-like body towering over the other delegates. "They abandoned us," he roared. "And now they're spreading lies, turning our allies against us." Zixar-7 remained calm, its voice steady despite the rising tension. "Humanity did not spread lies," it replied. "They exposed truths we have ignored for far too long. The Council is broken, and unless we fix it, more species will follow. Their example." Varnock glared at Zixar-7, his eyes narrowing. "You dare defend them? You've been aiding them all along, haven't you?" "I have acted in accordance with my conscience," Zixar-7 said firmly. "If that makes me guilty, then so be it." The room erupted into shouts and murmurs. Some delegates sided with Varnock, accusing Zixar-7 of treason. Others supported the insectoid diplomat, agreeing that the Council needed reform. The debate dragged on for hours, but no resolution emerged. Instead, cracks within the Council deepened, threatening to shatter it entirely. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Rachel Meyer and her team worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever might come next. Reports of hostile ships patrolling near human colonies weighed heavily on their minds. Security measures had been tightened, but Rachel knew they couldn't rely solely on defense. They needed to send a message, a clear statement that humanity was strong enough to protect itself and its allies. "We need to show them we're not afraid," Rachel said during a meeting with Daniel Carter and Jason Holt. "If those ships are testing us, we need to respond decisively." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "But how? We can't risk an open conflict, not yet." Jason leaned forward, his expression intense. "What if we don't attack directly? What if we use this as an opportunity to demonstrate our strength without firing a shot?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "We stage a display," Jason continued. "Deploy our fleet near the colonies, but keep them in defensive formations. At the same time, we announce publicly that we're expanding our trade networks and strengthening our alliances. It sends a message. We're ready for anything." Rachel considered the idea for a moment before nodding. "It could work. But we'll need Alex's help to make sure word spreads quickly." Alex Rivera, who had been listening via video call, grinned. "Leave that to me. I've got contacts everywhere. By tomorrow, every trader in the quadrant will know exactly what we're doing." As preparations began, activity surged across the colonies. Engineers worked around the clock to upgrade ships and fortify outposts. Scientists fine-tuned mining drones and agricultural systems to ensure self-sufficiency. Traders like Alex negotiated deals to bring in supplies and technology, while diplomats reached out to alien species seeking independence from the Council. One evening, Rachel stood on a balcony overlooking one of the colonies. Below her, lights twinkled in the darkness, illuminating streets bustling with life. She felt a sense of pride mixed with unease. Humanity had come so far, but the challenges ahead were daunting. Still, she reminded herself of something Daniel had said earlier. We didn't leave the Council because we were weak. We left because we're strong enough to stand on our own. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Turning, she saw Emily Dawson enter holding a tablet. We've got confirmation, Emily said. The fleet is in position, and Alex has started spreading the word. Reactions are already coming in. Good, Rachel replied. Let's see how the galaxy responds. Across the stars, news of humanity's actions spread rapidly. Alien species watched closely, some intrigued, others wary. Kael'thik, the reptilian merchant, contacted Alex to express his support. Your people are brave, he said. Many of us have waited years for someone to challenge the Council. Perhaps now, change is possible. Others weren't so welcoming. A group of rogue traders approached Alex with a warning. You're drawing attention, one of them said. Not everyone likes seeing humans rise. Be careful. You might find yourselves surrounded. Alex thanked them for the tip and passed the information along to Rachel. Looks like we've got admirers and enemies, he told her. Both are dangerous in their own way. Rachel sighed. That's the price of progress. Keep your ears open, Alex. If anything changes, I want to know immediately. As days turned into weeks, humanity's gamble began paying off. The mysterious ships lingering near the colonies eventually withdrew, though their presence remained, a reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows. Trade routes expanded, bringing in much-needed resources and forging new connections. More alien species joined humanity's coalition, drawn by promises of fairness and mutual benefit. Inside the council chambers, the situation worsened. Factions loyal to the old order accused reform-minded delegates of betrayal, while smaller species demanded accountability for decades of neglect. Classified documents leaked to the public revealed shocking details about the Council's manipulation of resource distribution and territorial claims. Protests erupted on planets controlled by Council-aligned species, with citizens demanding transparency and justice. Zixar-7 became a central figure in the push for reform. Despite facing hostility from powerful factions, the insectoid diplomat refused to back down. This is not about revenge, it told the assembly during one heated session. It is about creating a future where all species, large and small, are treated equally. If we fail, the Council will collapse entirely. Its words resonated with many, sparking a wave of grassroots movements across the galaxy. Species once silenced by the Council found their voices, calling for change. Even some dominant factions began reconsidering their positions, realizing that clinging to the status quo might cost them everything. On Earth, Daniel Carter reflected on the transformation taking place. He had returned to a quieter role, focusing on rebuilding relationships between humanity and alien partners. One evening, he sat with Rachel and Jason, discussing the road ahead. We've made progress, Daniel said, but we can't stop here. The Council isn't going to fix itself overnight, and there are still forces out there that want to see us fail. Rachel nodded. Agreed, but we've proven we can survive without them. That gives us leverage and hope. Jason smiled, faintly. Hope is a powerful thing. It's what keeps people moving forward, even when the odds seem impossible. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Alex. His face appeared on the screen, looking both excited and concerned. You're not going to believe this, he said. A delegation from the Council wants to meet with us. Rachel frowned. Why? What do they want? They didn't say, Alex replied, but they're asking for safe passage to one of the colonies. Looks like they're finally ready to talk. Daniel exchanged a glance with Rachel and Jason. This could be a trap, he warned. It could also be an opportunity. Rachel countered. Either way, we need to be prepared. After a brief discussion, they agreed to allow the delegation to visit under strict conditions. Security would be tight, and representatives from allied alien species would accompany humanity during the meeting. If the council wanted to negotiate, they would have to prove their sincerity. As preparations began, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Humanity had forced the galaxy to confront uncomfortable truths, igniting a movement that showed no signs of slowing down. Change was inevitable, but whether it would lead to peace or conflict remained uncertain. For now, though, Rachel focused on the task at hand. Humanity had taken a stand, and the galaxy was watching. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The delegation from the Galaxy Council arrived at one of humanity's largest colonies, escorted by a fleet of ships under strict orders not to deviate from their designated route. The colony itself was a marvel of engineering, a sprawling settlement, built into the rugged terrain of a distant moon. Its domed structures glimmered under artificial sunlight, and its streets buzzed with activity as humans and aliens worked side by side. For the council members stepping foot onto this self-sustaining world, it was a stark reminder of what humanity had achieved without their help. Rachel Meyer stood at the entrance of the meeting hall, flanked by Daniel Carter and Jason Holt. Behind them were representatives from allied alien species, including Kale Thick, the reptilian merchant who had become a key supporter of humanity's cause. Security personnel lined the walls, their weapons holstered but ready. Rachel's expression was calm, but her mind raced with questions. Why had the council come? What did they want? And most importantly, could they be trusted? The council delegation entered the room, led by Ambassador Varnock. His towering frame and stern demeanor made him an imposing figure, but there was something different about him today, something softer, almost hesitant. Beside him stood Zixar-7, the insectoid diplomat, whose advocacy for reform had earned both admiration and hostility within the council. Trailing behind them were several other delegates, their faces unreadable. "Thank you for allowing us to visit," Varnock began, his voice deep and measured. "We are here to discuss possibilities." Rachel crossed her arms. "Possibilities," she repeated. "That's vague. Let's cut to the chase. Why are you here?" Varnock hesitated, glancing briefly at Zixar-7 before continuing. "The Council has faced significant challenges since your departure. Our structure is under strain and many species question our legitimacy. We seek to address these issues and to explore whether reconciliation is possible." Daniel stepped forward, his tone firm. "Reconciliation? After years of treating us like second-class citizens? You'll have to do better than that." Zixar-7 interjected, its voice calm and steady. "Ambassador Carter, I understand your skepticism, but change is underway. Many within the Council recognize the need for reform. We wish to include humanity in this process, to ensure your concerns are addressed." Rachel studied the insectoid diplomat carefully. She knew Zixar-7 had been a vocal advocate for fairness, but trust didn't come easily. "What kind of reforms are we talking about?" she asked. One of the council delegates stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying a series of proposals. "These outline potential changes," they explained. "Equal representation for all species, transparent resource allocation, and reparations for past injustices. They are still drafts, but they represent a starting point." Jason leaned closer to Rachel, whispering softly, "This could be real. If they follow through, it could benefit everyone." Rachel nodded slightly, then turned back to the council delegation. "Let's be clear," she said. "Words mean nothing without action. How do we know you won't backtrack once you've regained control?" Varnock bristled at the accusation, but Zixar-7 responded calmly. "You're right to demand proof. That's why we propose a trial period. Allow us to implement these reforms incrementally, with oversight from independent observers, including representatives from your coalition." Kaltik spoke up. his raspy voice cutting through the tension. And if you fail, what happens then? If we fail, Zixar-7 replied, then humanity and its allies are free to pursue their own path. No interference, no retaliation. This is our commitment. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the weight of the proposal. It was a risky offer, fraught with uncertainty. Yet it also presented an opportunity, a chance to reshape the galaxy's future without further conflict. Rachel exchanged glances with Daniel and Jason before addressing the council delegation again. "We'll consider your proposal," she said. "But understand this. If we agree to work with you, any sign of dishonesty will end negotiations permanently. Is that clear?" Varnock nodded reluctantly. "Understood." As the meeting concluded, Rachel felt a mix of hope and caution. The council's willingness to negotiate suggested they were desperate, but desperation could lead to genuine change or reckless decisions. Only time would tell. Back on Earth, news of the council's overture sparked heated debates. Some celebrated it as a victory, proof that humanity's bold move had forced the galaxy to listen. Others warned against complacency, fearing the council might use the talks to regain power. Politicians, scientists, and citizens alike weighed in, each offering their perspective on what should happen next. Daniel spent hours reviewing the council's proposals, poring over every detail. He knew the stakes were high. Agreeing to cooperate meant risking betrayal, while rejecting the offer outright could isolate humanity further. Emily Dawson joined him in the task, her sharp eye catching inconsistencies in the draft documents. "These sections are vague," Emily noted, pointing to a paragraph about resource distribution. "They leave too much room for interpretation." Daniel sighed. "Exactly. Which means we'll need to push for specifics, hard numbers, timelines, enforcement mechanisms. Otherwise, they'll twist the rules to suit themselves." Meanwhile, Alex Rivera traveled between colonies and alien settlements, gathering feedback from allies. Most supported engaging with the council cautiously, seeing it as a chance to secure long-term benefits. A few, however, urged humanity to remain independent, arguing that reliance on the council would only lead to more problems down the line. "I hear you," Alex told a group of skeptical traders during one meeting. "Believe me, I don't trust them either. But ignoring this opportunity might cost us more in the long run. Let's see what they're willing to give us before we shut the door completely." His words resonated with many, though doubts lingered. Humanity's coalition was strong, but it wasn't invincible. Balancing cooperation with caution would be crucial in the weeks ahead. Inside the council chambers, reactions to the delegation's report were mixed. Some factions praised the effort to reach out to humanity, viewing it as a necessary step toward stability. Others accused Varnock and Zixar-7 of weakness, claiming they were caving to pressure. Arguments erupted once again, threatening to derail the fragile progress that had been made. Zixar-7 addressed the assembly, its voice firm despite the chaos. "This is not about pride or power," it declared. "It is about survival. If we cannot adapt, if we cannot meet the needs of all species, then the Council will collapse and take the galaxy with it. Humanity has shown us what is possible. Will we learn from them or will we destroy ourselves?" Its words struck a chord with some delegates, particularly those representing smaller species. Slowly, support for reform began to grow, driven by a shared desire for peace and fairness. Weeks passed as negotiations continued. Humanity and its allies pushed for concrete commitments, refusing to settle for empty promises. The Council, for its part, struggled to balance internal dissent with external demands. Progress was slow, frustrating, and often maddening, but it was progress nonetheless. Rachel, Daniel, and Jason worked tirelessly to ensure humanity's interests were protected. They collaborated with alien partners to draft counter-proposals, emphasizing transparency and accountability. At the same time, they prepared contingency plans in case talks broke down. Trust was scarce, but determination kept them moving forward. One evening, as Rachel reviewed the latest updates, she paused to reflect on how far they'd come. Humanity had walked away from the Council, proving it could thrive independently. Now they were shaping the galaxy's future, not as supplicants but as equals. It wasn't perfect and challenges remained, but it was a start. "We're writing history," Rachel murmured to herself, a faint smile crossing her face. "Let's make sure it's worth reading." Years had passed since humanity's bold withdrawal from the Galaxy Council, and the effects of that decision rippled across the stars. The colonies thrived, their domes now home to bustling cities filled with humans and aliens alike. Trade routes stretched far beyond what anyone had imagined, connecting distant worlds in a network of mutual benefit. Humanity had not only survived but flourished, proving it could stand on its own. Rachel Meyer stood on a platform overlooking one of the largest colonies, her hands resting on the railing as she watched ships come and go. The hum of activity below was a testament to everything they had built, a self-sustaining society free from the constraints of the Council. Beside her, Daniel Carter gazed out at the horizon, his expression thoughtful. "We did it," Rachel said softly, breaking the silence. "We actually did it." Daniel nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Not without a fight, though. Remember how many times we thought it wouldn't work?" Rachel chuckled. "Too many to count. But here we are." The journey hadn't been easy. Negotiations with the Council had dragged on for months, each step forward accompanied by setbacks and compromises. In the end, humanity and its allies secured a place at the table, not as subordinates, but as equals. The reforms implemented within the Council were still fragile, but they represented a shift toward fairness and transparency. For the first time in decades, smaller species felt their voices mattered. Jason Holt approached them, holding a tablet displaying recent reports. "Things are stabilizing," he said. "Trade is up, resources are flowing where they're needed, and the colonies are expanding faster than ever. Even the Council seems different." "Different doesn't mean perfect," Rachel replied, glancing at him. "But it's a start." Jason shrugged. "True. Still, I think we can take a moment to celebrate. We've earned it." As if on cue, Emily Dawson joined them, her face glowing with excitement. "You won't believe this," she said, holding up her own device. "Celtic just sent word they've agreed to host a summit. All our allies are coming, including some new ones who want to join us." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "New allies? Who?" Emily grinned. "A group of rogue traders and independent settlements near the edge of Council space. They heard about what we've built here and want in." Rachel felt a surge of pride. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about creating something bigger, something better. Humanity had become a beacon of hope for those tired of the Council's old ways. The summit took place on Kyle Thick's home planet, a rocky world with jagged cliffs and shimmering rivers of liquid crystal. Delegates from dozens of species gathered in a vast amphitheater carved into the mountainside. Humans mingled with reptilians, insectoids, and even aquatic beings carried in water-filled pods. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, a mix of curiosity, optimism, and cautious trust. Alex Rivera moved through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging greetings. Over the years, he had become a key figure in forging alliances, his reputation as a fair and shrewd negotiator earning widespread respect. He spotted Rachel and waved her over. "You should see this," Alex said, gesturing toward a nearby table, laden with goods. They brought samples, technology, crops, medicine. Some of it's incredible. Rachel examined the items, her eyes widening at the sight of a small device capable of purifying air in seconds. "Where did this come from?" she asked. "One of the rogue groups," Alex replied. "Turns out they've been working on it for years, but no one paid attention until now. It was a reminder of what could be achieved when barriers came down. Innovation flourished when minds worked together, unburdened by prejudice or greed." Later that evening, Rachel addressed the assembled delegates. Standing on a raised platform, she looked out at the diverse crowd and felt a swell of emotion. "When we left the Council, we didn't know what lay ahead," she began. "All we knew was that we deserved better, for ourselves and for every species treated unfairly. Today we stand united, not because we're the strongest or the smartest, but because we share a vision of a better future. Her words were met with applause, cheers, and even a few tears. For many, this moment symbolized more than just progress. It symbolized hope. Back in the council chambers, 6R7 watched the live stream of the summit with quiet satisfaction. Change had come slowly, painfully, but it had come. Smaller species now held real power, their voices shaping policies that once ignored them. Larger factions, though reluctant at first, had begun adapting to the new reality. The council itself was far from perfect, but it was no longer the oppressive force it once was. Ambassador Varnock entered the chamber, his usual scowl replaced by a look of resignation. "You were right," he admitted grudgingly, "about everything. If we'd listened sooner, maybe none of this would have happened." 6R7 tilted its head slightly. "It's never too late to learn. What matters is that we move forward, together." Varnock sighed. "Easier said than done. But I suppose we don't have much choice." On Earth, life continued to improve. Cities embraced sustainable practices inspired by the colonies, while schools taught children about humanity's journey among the stars. Politicians debated how best to balance independence with cooperation, knowing that mistakes could still be made but determined to avoid repeating the past. One evening, Daniel sat in his backyard, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. Emily joined him carrying 2 cups of tea. She handed him one and sat beside him, sipping quietly. "What happens next?" she asked after a while. Daniel smiled. "That's the beauty of it. We get to decide. No one's telling us what to do anymore. We write our own story." Emily nodded, her gaze drifting upward to the stars twinkling faintly in the twilight. "I like the sound of that." Across the galaxy, humanity's actions had sparked a ripple effect. Species once divided found common ground, driven by a shared desire for fairness and opportunity. The Council remained a part of the galactic landscape, but its influence was tempered by the rise of independent coalitions, like the one humanity had forged. Power once concentrated in the hands of a few was now distributed more evenly. Rachel often thought about the risks they had taken and the challenges they had faced. There had been moments of doubt, times when failure seemed inevitable. Yet, they had persevered, driven by the belief that change was possible and worth fighting for. As she stood on the balcony of her office one night, staring at the star-filled sky, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Humanity had stepped boldly into the unknown, not knowing what awaited them. What they found wasn't perfection, but something far more valuable, the chance to shape their destiny. And so, under the vast expanse of the cosmos, humanity continued, to explore, to build, and to dream. They had proven they belonged among the stars, and nothing could take that away.